Welcome back to another Film Geek video. It's the end of the month, so that can only mean one thing. It's time for me to rank all of the new movies I have seen in the month of February. But I'm going to do things a little bit different this month than I did last month. Instead of using a grading system like A, B, C, D, F, I'm going to just rank them from favorite to least favorite film that I saw in the month of February. I just thought this might be a little bit more fun. And, I'm not a real big fan of throwing a grade on something, so I felt like this was a much better way to kind of do it. Just rank them from my favorite film of the month to my least favorite film of the month. And you know what? The month of February had pretty much everything in it. I saw all sorts of different genres this month, from family animated films to horror comedies, films I think are going to become cult classics, dramas, action films. The month of February's pretty much had a movie for everything. So you know what? It's enough of me sitting here yammering on. It is time for me to get over to that series of tubes that we call the internet and rank my favorite to least favorite films in the month of February 2024. Welcome to the internet, folks. Let's get this started, shall we? Let's get this started with my first and favorite pick of the month of February. And this is going into what could possibly be my favorite film genre anyways, and that is horror. Stop motion. And I know this is probably the most recent film that I've seen on this list also. I just saw this a few days ago, and I am still absolutely blown away by this movie. I really am. This is one of those films that the longer you sit and think about it, stew on it a bit, you just grow a larger appreciation for what you just saw unfold on the screen. It wasn't just horror, it was freaking art, man. This film has so many different layers, and it's just beautiful to watch. The stop motion animation that's in the film is gorgeous, and when they blend in the live action elements with the stop animation, it just takes me back to the good old days of something like the Clash of the Titans. But this film, because of using some more modern film technique, it looks real. I mean, my God, when those puppets are on screen with real people moving, it really seems like those puppets are alive. This film is spooky, scary, dramatic. It's very well made, very well shot, and it's currently in limited release in theaters. However, if I remember correctly, it is coming to Shudder nationwide, worldwide, however that works, May 1st, I believe. So if you don't see it in theaters in your area, definitely look this one up on Shudder, because if you are a fan of slow burn horror, you are going to just eat this film up like candy. Now, moving into my second spot, I'm actually going to do 2 and 3 at the same time, because I kind of like these films. Basically, I like these films the same amount, okay? I really enjoyed both these movies for a lot of the same reasons. Both of these films, I feel, are going to become big-time cult classics one day. And that is my number 2 I'm going to put is Lisa Frankenstein. And then number 3 is Drive Away Dolls. Okay, Lisa Frankenstein. Let's start with that one in number 2. The reason I put it at number 2 is because I think that's Zelda Williams' first film that she's directed, and I just thought she did an excellent job if this is a first-time outing. The film was very well put together, super fun, and yeah, I think that it might actually kind of build a gap. I was thinking about this a lot. In my review, I said that I didn't think that it was necessarily for a younger audience because it took the 80s very seriously, but then I thought about it more and I'm like, no, that doesn't matter that they took the 80s so seriously. In fact, that might make younger people like this film even more. And the reason I say that is because it's very authentic. Oh my gosh, I can't speak, can I? So it really adds a good layer to this film. They do know now what the time period was like for their parents growing up, and I think that that adds a little bit more to the film. And it is going to be, I think, a big Gen Z cult film someday. So hats off to this film. Excellent movie. Great job. If it's still around in theaters in your area, check this one out. If you're a lover of just cult cinema, you're going to love this film. If you're a lover of the 80s, you're going to see a lot of the 80s films films in this movie, but not enough to be able to say that this is a clone. Mostly homages to other 80s films. And I just had an absolute blast with this movie. It just took me back to a happy space. That's all it did for me. Now, as drive-away dolls go, this is Ethan Coen. So, you know, he's been around for a minute in the directorial area, and he knows how to just craft an absolutely fantastic cult film, and he did another right here. I had a blast with this movie. I was laughing my ass off from beginning to end. There are some absolutely great jokes in this movie. I would love to get a t-shirt someday that just says, "Why won't anyone save Curly?" That's all I wanted to say, and if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. This movie is just fun, it's goofy, it's charming, it's silly, and it's a type of comedy that you just don't get to see much anymore. Moving on to number 4, and I am going to put that at, right here. Now, maybe this movie suffers from the worst title of the month, but it was far from the worst time I had at the theater. And that is Land of Bad. This movie is just pure action goodness from beginning to end. There's not a whole lot of substance in this film, but it makes up with all of the fun explosions and just the good time that you're going to have watching Russell Crowe just totally boomer out at a vegan grocery store. This film has a lot of good elements to it, and if you just let yourself just fall back and enjoy the fun that you're seeing on the screen, you're going to see an action film that you haven't seen in a long time. A real shot on location with real practical effects, explosions, maybe a little CGI blood, but mostly everything in this film is very practical and grounded. It didn't have the world's largest budget. I think this movie came in at around 14 million, something like that, and they used that budget very well. This movie doesn't look cheap. It looks really well made. So I have to say, I had a great time with this film, putting it at number 4. Coming in at number 5, I am going to give that spot to Scrambled. Now, not that this movie is worse than Land of Bad. Remember, this is just my personal opinion. This film was very good, okay? This film was very well made, very well acted. Everything about this movie was very solid. This is the kind of movie that I wouldn't be surprised we see later on down the year winning an award. This is the kind of film that would win something like Best Original Script or something like that. Because honestly, the script, the story, the dialogue, all of it, extremely solid. So not that this is a bad movie, it's just out of the other ones, yeah, I put it right there at number 5 in my enjoyment level. But it's still an extremely good film and a solid recommendation for you if you see it out there. Now, it tells the story of a woman who's in her mid-30s, and she's at a point in her life where she's trying to make some decisions. One of which is, do I want to have children? What do I want to do here? And so in the process of trying to make up her mind, she decides to freeze her eggs and then give herself a little bit of time to figure out what she wants to do. And it does have a lot of great moments, an excellent cast. This film is extremely well acted. It is a very, very solid film. Again, one of my other recommendations of the month. So these are actually all very good movies. So don't really take in mind where I'm ranking them. This is just my own personal enjoyment level. But all of these movies right here in the top 5, solid films. So here we are at number 6, and I am going to put that right here with The Tiger's Apprentice. This was a perfectly acceptable family action superhero-ish animated film. The animation was solid, the story was been there, done that, but fun. The characters were relatable, the animation was solid, very colorful. It brought into a lot of different, it was based on a lot of Chinese zodiac culture, so you got to learn a little bit about that. There's some really great elements to this film that I really enjoyed. Again, this month, pretty much solid films, to be perfectly honest. This is a solid movie. It's on streaming service Paramount Plus. If you are a subscriber of Paramount Plus, I highly recommend this film. Like I said, it's based off of the Chinese zodiac. A young boy finds out after his grandmother's death that he is a guardian of the world, per se. He has to protect the world from evil. All right? Yeah, like I said, superhero-y kind of thing. And his teacher is the tiger. And then all of his other friends, or I guess you'd say team members, that they all work together and such, are the different animals from the Chinese zodiac. The film's fun. It's solid. It's well animated, good time, well acted, well voice acted. I don't have any complaints on this one, honestly. It was a fun little film. Except, like I said, just plain typical. So that brings us down to my last two. And this is where I always get into it, where, I'm going to reveal my least favorite movie of the month by just saying what the next one is. So we're just going to go right into it. So number 7, unfortunately, is Argyle, which I was expecting this one to be further up the list, to be perfectly honest. Again, this movie suffers from being painfully average. It's not terrible. It's got its great moments. It really does. It has some really solid stuff. Sam Rockwell in this film just works his ass off. I mean, honestly, though, the entire cast was great. I did enjoy stuff. It was fun-ish. It just was, for such a AAA kind of Hollywood film, it was ugly, man. It had some really bad CGI. And when you see a movie like Land of Bad that had such a smaller budget and didn't use so much CGI and everything looked so much better, they didn't have a bunch of crappy green screen, it was real. And then you take something like Argyle and you watch it, it just kind of looks ugly. And you're wondering, how could a movie like this have such a big budget and not look as good as the smaller budget movie? But, whatever. The film was fun. It tells the story of a writer who is living a very normal type of life. She writes spy novels. Come to find out, those spy novels are actually happening in the real world. And somehow or another, she can tell the future. A spy, played by Sam Rockwell, shows up to try to protect her from some evil spies that are trying to hurt her because she could predict the future. There you go. Wackiness ensues. It's not a terrible movie. It was just painfully average. It has its fun moments. It's one of those movies that I like to say you could throw on while you're folding laundry and you'll be fairly entertained. You don't have to pay a whole lot of attention to what's going on to enjoy it. This movie throws in a lot of other elements also from a bunch of different other action films. You're going to notice a lot of the same things, is what I'm trying to say. But fun-ish still. So the least favorite was kind of one of the more entertaining moments, though, of the month. And that is Skeletons in the Closet. Dude, I don't even know. Even now, I've watched this film, and I'm trying to remember every plot element of this film. So this was a Shudder original, and Terrence Howard stars in it. It is just an absolute mess. It's a ghost story. This woman has been haunted by this ghost her whole life. And in order to save her daughter's life, she has to let this ghost possess her. But the movie's not that at all. It is a so bad it's good film. It's just a train wreck of a movie. And if you are in a state that has legalized smoking the green herb cannabis, I highly recommend this one on your 420 rituals. So yeah, that is what this movie's all about. Was I entertained? Yes, I was. Was it intentional? No. This movie was so horribly, unintentionally funny. It's unbelievable. Go back and check out my review of this movie because, like I said, unfortunately, because it's just such a bad movie, I can't remember much about it except that it was this ghost terrorizing this woman, and yes, that's it. It's just so freaking bonkers. It's such a poorly made movie, but I was laughing so much throughout the entire thing. But yeah, if I have to go off of quality and such, yes, that is number 8 for this month. Skeletons in the Closet. Well, there you have it, guys. There it is, the rankings for the month of February, from my favorite film from my least favorite film. If you like this format more than doing the grading system, let me know down in the comments your opinion of this new format that I'm using, if you like it, so on and so forth. But anyways, guys, thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.